Author and essayist Salman Rushdie will be in Houston tonight at 7:30 to read from his latest story collection called The 11th Hour. His appearance is part of Houston literary nonprofit Imprint's Margaret Root Brown reading series. But that's about all I can tell you about it. You see, only ticket buyers and season subscribers know where it will be. That's for security reasons. Rushdie has for decades experienced threats and actual violence over his writing. It all dates back to 1989 when Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini formally called for Muslims worldwide to kill Rushdie over what Khomeini and other radicals perceived as blasphemy in Rushdie's novel, The Satanic Verses. Primarily, they were upset over his use in the story of a character that served as a stand-in for the Prophet Muhammad. Ever since, Rushdie has spoken out on free speech, even in the face of ongoing threats, which culminated in a 2022 attack at the Chatauqua Institution in New York. A man rushed the stage and stabbed Rushdie repeatedly in his stomach, his neck, eye, and elsewhere, leaving him gravely wounded. Rushdie has since recovered but lost sight in one of his eyes and the use of one hand. And yet he still speaks out. He still makes public appearances, and he still writes. The 11th Hour is his return to fiction after he wrote a memoir about the attack, which was called Knife: Meditations After an Attempted Murder. We recorded my conversation with Rushdie on Friday. Salman Rushdie, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you.
First things first, Happy New Year to you. I hope, in light of the last few years, that every New Year is these days going forward a happy one for you. Is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's nice to be having some. But yes, it's a Happy New Year to you too.
How much traveling? How many appearances like the one you'll make in Houston have you been doing lately? Now 3.5 years since Chautauqua and the start of your road to physical recovery there.
No, well, with this new book, The 11th Hour, coming out, I haven't done a gigantic book tour, but I've done some stuff. I mean, we're getting better at knowing how to do these things in a way that's safe for everybody.
Yeah, you're coming to Houston, and as I'm mentioning, we don't know where your appearance will be, but the folks that are attending it they know. And is that, I assume, among the steps that you take as you make appearances around the country and around the world?
I didn't actually know that was the case.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, in many places that I've done advertised events, that they've gone fine.
Okay. I should also point out you are not a stranger to Houston, and in fact, I was recently reminded that you spent more time here than you ever intended back in 2001. What do you recall about the days of and following September 11th, 2001, when you were here in Houston, stranded like so many of us were?
Yeah, well, it was, of course, a terrible moment. I had just done an event with Imprint, the same people that were hosting me on this occasion. I'd done an event for, I can't even remember which book. I think it was Fury, on the night of September the 10th. And I was supposed to be leaving on the next leg of the book tour, I think to Minneapolis on the next morning. And I had agreed to do a radio interview, a phone-in from my hotel room before I went to the airport. And the reporter called me up in my hotel room early and said, look, because of what's happening in New York, we can't do the interview. And I don't have the habit of switching on the TV the moment I wake up. So I said, what's happening in New York? And he said, turn on your goddamn television. And I turned it on, just like so many people, just in time to see the second plane. And yeah, then I was, because of the ground stop, I was stranded in Houston for a couple of days. And actually, the Imprint folks, Rich Levy and Imprint, really went to some trouble to make sure I'd be okay. They found me somewhere to stay, and they kind of, I was going to say took care of me, but I think maybe we looked after each other at that terrible moment.
Do you have any recollection of how you spent those couple of days?
Well, I can remember one thing. I mean, the place they found me to stay, another writer's home that was in the museum district, and it was very close to the Rothko Chapel. And and I don't, I'm not the most holy person in the world, but on that particular occasion, I thought that's where I wanted to go. And I went to the Rothko Chapel, and there weren't many people there. There were just a few people sitting there. Nobody talked to anybody. But we just sat there and reflected, on what had happened. Um, yeah, I mean, it was. I was actually very touched by the extent to which folks in Houston took trouble to make sure I was okay and take me out to dinner and kind of, wait for the planes to start flying.
Do you think that experience has shaped either not just your perceptions of Houston, but maybe the way you think of your relationship with the rest of America?
Well, it made me, I had the feeling that my home was being attacked. It made me understand that America was home. I hadn't been living. It was relatively recently. It was like 2 years after I moved to New York. I have to say, on the other hand, about Houston, I'm a Yankees fan.
Uh-oh. we got trouble now.
And Yankees Astros, it's not the best relationship in the world.
Nah, we'll find a way to muddle through, though. Your new collection, The 11th Hour, this weaves 5 interconnected stories. They examine a variety of issues and ideas, but among them, identity and memory, aging and mortality. Are these things that you contemplate more and more every year?
Well, I mean, I think, I'm getting up there. I'll be 79 this year. And if you're at that stage in your life, you do think about things like that more often. But what I was anxious to do was to be kind of playful with it, not to write books about, oh my God, we're all going to die,
Right.
because we all know that. That's not news. I wanted to have some fun with it. So, for example, it was in the book is the first ghost story I ever wrote. And that was enormously enjoyable to write, I have to say. I was very fond of my ghost.
I guess I got to ask, do you believe in ghosts?
Never seen one, but in fiction you can make things real which don't have to be real in everyday life.
I imagine that sense of playfulness might be one example, but are there some other ways that you think maybe you think about aging and mortality and it all differently than you might have 30 or 40 years ago?
Well, yeah, because the end is closer, and also because of what happened almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago in Chautauqua, I had a pretty good look at the ending. And so, yeah, it feels more intimate now, if you like, But also, I think one of the things that happened in the book is it made me look backwards over not just my life as a person, but my life as a writer. And these stories revisit worlds that I've spent my life writing about. I mean, really, three worlds. I mean, India, England, and America. And I've lived for really very extended periods of time in all of those, and have thought and written about them over I mean, half a century now. My first book was published in 1975, so it's like 51 years ago. And so it's a long time that I've been thinking about these places and watching them change, and sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But being deeply engaged with them. And so these stories are a way of revisiting all those worlds.
How do you think those 3 worlds, India, England, the United States, how are they similar and how are they different as you contemplate where they are in 2026?
Well, I'm a very much a big city guy. I mean, I've spent most of my life in big cities, three big cities, Bombay, as it used to be, Mumbai now, London and New York. And one of the things about the mentality of the big city is that it's much the same everywhere in the world. It's very diverse. Um, it's very crowded. It's very noisy. The same kinds of kind of plurality. You meet people of all kinds everywhere and bumping into each other, speaking different languages, and etc. And the nature of the big city is that kind of plural reality. And I think the kind of books I've written have very much grown out of that sense. And that I think that they're all those cities are still like that. Uh, I mean, clearly, there's been a certain amount of prejudice about diversity and migration and so on these days, but I've always in my work tried to celebrate it. I've tried to say that what we gain from it is much greater than what problems it might bring.
Ahead of our chat, I asked Houstonians on the old socials if they had any questions for you. I thought maybe we could go through a few of them.
Oh, sure, yes.
All right. John asks what he calls the obvious question. He wants to know, do you feel your life is still in danger?
Oh, not, no, it was a case of kind of bad luck, really, because I just encountered one crazy kid, in a situation where there was kind of no security protection at all. I mean, if there had been one person stationed by the steps up to the stage, nothing would have happened. So it was a kind of perfect storm. And I don't spend my days worrying about it too much. I mean, I'm serious about making sure it never happens again. Say that.
I think you may have just answered Maggie's question. She wonders if you're scared to do public events after the stabbing.
No, it took me a bit of time to get back to doing them. I'll admit that. It took a little bit of a deep breath to say, okay, I'm going to start doing this again. But as I say, I've talked to professionals. I mean, we've got very good at doing them in a way that's safe, not only for me, but for everyone there.
You wrote a memoir about the attack and your recovery. Sophie asks if it's harder to write your memoirs than it is to write fiction.
Well, it was hard to write that one because the subject obviously was, to put it mildly, painful.
Wow.
But I felt that I had to write it because, it was very big in my head. It was very, very difficult to think about writing anything else. And I understood quite early on after the attack that the only way of getting past it was to go through it, so to speak, to kind of deal with it. And writing the book was important for me in that way. It was a way of taking charge of what had happened and getting past it, I mean, the fact that I was able to complete a book of stories just over a year after writing the memoir shows that actually what I felt was that when I finished the book, it was like the floodgates opened in my head and the fiction came back. And I was very pleased to see that it did.
Varsha wants to know, is there a book you wish you had written, but you haven't? And I'll tack onto that, at least not yet.
Oh, War and Peace. Madame Bovary. There's a lot of books I wish I'd written. I mean, what I think of writing is that it's my way of responding to the moment in the world that I'm living through. And so the books change and grow and emerge out of those experiences. So there isn't like a particular story that I feel, oh, I wish I'd told that. But I'm always trying to find the next story, and so far so good. They keep. I mean, this is the 11th Hour is my 23rd book, so it's 23 books in 50 years. It's enough, I think.
It's a pretty good pace, I'd say. Meredith says she'd love to know if there's anything you believe Americans are doing wrong when we fight censorship, and if so, what are your suggestions for fixing it?
Well, you just have to fight harder. I mean, it's a very strange moment in that area of American life that because one of the reasons why people like me respect this country is the First Amendment, the guarantee of free expression. that it contains. And in a country in which that's such an important thing, to see books being banned and removed from libraries and children being told that they can't read certain things and etc. I mean, that's very distressing. I mean, I think, put it this way, if you're a parent and there's a book you don't want your child to read, I mean, that's your right, I guess. But it's not your right to tell other people's children what they can read and not read. You know? And there's too much of that going on. I mean, PEN America, which is the writers' organization that I've been involved with for a long time, had a survey recently, a couple of months ago, in which they said that there's more than 10,000 book bans active in the United States at the moment. And that's horrifying. And these are not just any old books, these are some of the best books ever written. This is, To Kill a Mockingbird, or Beloved, or Huckleberry Finn. Books that really all of us would do well and benefit from reading. So they're being challenged. I mean, the thing is, the answer to the question really is that you fight hard. And there are organizations and entities that are fighting back against the book bans with a fair amount of success. I mean, the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, has been fighting bans. I mean, PEN America, in collaboration with universities and bookstores and publishers, have been fighting back against the book bans with a fair amount of success. But, the battle goes on.
As a New Yorker, this is a good question for you. Farha asks, what do you think of New York City's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani?
Well, I mean, he's hardly got behind the desk yet. I mean, this is like his first week. I mean, I think he fought a very attractive campaign, and he energized the electorate in a way that it hasn't been for a long time. In mayoral elections in New York City, the vote turnout is usually not very high. And this time it was a very high turnout, and particularly high amongst younger voters, and that's great to see. So he totally earned it. And now we have to see what he does with it. At the beginning, the first signs are pretty good. I mean, his agreement with Governor Hochul about making childcare cheaper or free. I mean, that was a big part of his campaign, and he's made a very good start. So I think, he deserves his shot. And I think a lot of people are hoping that he does well.
You made an effort to be playful in writing The 11th Hour. Let me return the favor with his final question from Brad, who wants to know how Larry David convinced you to guest star on Curb Your Enthusiasm and satirize how a fatwa makes you a chick magnet.
Well, we didn't know each other really. We'd very briefly met somewhere, and he got in touch, and I'd kind of pitched it at me. And of course, the funny thing is that there's no script to read because the show is more or less completely improvised. So he described it to me, and at first I thought I didn't know how funny that was, and then I changed my mind, and I thought, if we've reached a point where we can have fun with it and laugh at it, then that's a kind of victory. And so I said I'd do it. I mean, I was quite scared because those guys on Curb, they're geniuses of improv. And I didn't want to be the only person on Curb who wasn't any good. But I hope I got away with it.
I would say you did. Salman Rushdie, thanks so much for talking with me.
Thank you.